Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome for those of you that are new to my channel. And my name is Karina, and thank you for being here and watching my video or previous videos if you guys have watched them. So before we get started, can we just take a moment to appreciate my hair? I got my hair done. Today is Thursday. I got it done yesterday, which is Wednesday the 30th, and I am obsessed, literally obsessed with my hair. I literally oh my god, I love it so much. I had it something similar to this before, except it was a little bit darker, but I wanted to go lighter. And let me tell you, the girl killed it on my hair. So one of my coworkers did it for me at work, and I'm literally obsessed with it. So besides that, let's just get right on to the video. For today's video, I wanted to do not a first impressions, just because I have already used this product for quite some time now. I wanted to do kind of my thoughts and a final review on this product, and I did mention that I was gonna do it, so here we are. And I'm gonna be reviewing, or not reviewing, but I'm gonna be giving you guys my final thoughts on the Jouer Essential High Coverage Cream Foundation. Looks like this. I'm pretty sure you guys all know what it looks like. It's been out for a while now, and as you guys, oh wow, let me see, as you guys can see, I've used quite a bit product right there. So yeah, this video is gonna mainly focus on my final thoughts and a review kind of on this product. So first things first, I have been using this foundation for, I want to say, about a month now. So I feel like now is the time to make a video specifically on this foundation and just giving my full thoughts and opinions on this foundation, just because I didn't do it to start with. I did mention that I did purchase this foundation, but I stopped using it right away because when I had swatched it on my lower jaw, it was a completely different color, I thought. And I was like, you know what, I did not spend however much this is. I did not spend that much money for me just to have it on my makeup set, and not using it. So I gave it another shot, and well, in the tutorial, you guys are gonna get the tea. So when I use this foundation, it doesn't matter to me specifically what primer I use, but for today's video, I'm gonna go ahead and take the NYX Pore Filler, I was gonna say foundation, primer. And I like this one because, and I like this one because it is for your pores, but it does leave my skin with a really silky kind of canvas. So before we move on, I'm going to go ahead and let that soak into my skin. But before we do that, and before I go in and actually apply the foundation, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look on Sephora, or actually I'm going to go ahead and go on the Jouer website, and I'm going to go ahead and read you guys what this foundation is meant for and what kind of expectations you guys should be expecting. Okay, it says product description. Supreme coverage, lightweight, and long wearing. Essential high coverage cream foundation creates an impeccable airbrushed matte finish instantly. Simply smooth a small amount of the concentrated formula onto the skin with the Jouer Essentials Precision foundation brush. I do not have that. I'm going to use my beauty blender. And buff to reveal your perfect complexion. Okay, and it says it has chamomile, I don't know what the heck that says, cucumber extract, hyaluronic acid, tripeptide complex. It's matte and oil free. It's paraben free, gluten free, and vegan friendly. Okay, so that's what this foundation says. Okay, and again, this one retails for $38. So I did order mine online, and the reason, backstory real quick, what had happened was, since I had ordered it online, I had seen everybody talking about this foundation, and that's honestly the only reason why I purchased it. I like hearing other people's opinions before I go ahead and I try it out for myself, just because I'd rather get a whole audience talking about this foundation and if they like it or not before I go out and buy it for myself. So I had seen a lot of people talking about this foundation. They said that they loved it, that there was nothing wrong with it. So I was like, you know what, I'm looking for a high coverage foundation, and you can never go wrong with hearing the opinions of other people, especially like makeup gurus and all that stuff. So I went ahead and I purchased it, and I got the shade Latte. So when I first got it, in the packaging, it doesn't look light. It doesn't look dark. So that when I put it against my face, it's a little it's like my color, maybe a little bit darker. So when I first, saw the packaging, I was like, oh wow, okay. I was like, it's probably gonna be my shade. And I didn't give it like a full test run the first day I got it. When I had first got it, I put a little pump on. Actually, no. Backtrack. So what had happened was I had purchased this, which I should have purchased the samples that they have on the website, because you can purchase like samples, which they're free. So I should have done that before purchasing the actual full bottle size of the foundation. So that was where I messed up a little bit, I guess I can say. So I went ahead and I purchased this, and then I added to my cart the free samples, just to see if this one was going to be my shade. And if not, I can go ahead and see for myself with these samples which one is going to be my shade. So when I got them in the mail, I got the samples in the mail, and obviously I got the latte one, since that's the full-size bottle that I had purchased. So I went ahead and I got the sample of latte, and I put it like right here in my face. Again, mind you, I was in my bathroom, which is terrible lighting. So I got it and I applied it to my jawline right here, and instantly I noticed that it was, first of all, it was really dark, and second of all, it started to oxidize like orange. And my friend was with me at the time, so I asked her, and I was like, hey, what do I have in my hair? I was like, does my foundation, does it look like dark? She goes, yeah. She goes, it looks really dark, and I feel like it oxidized on you. So from that moment on, I was like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna put it aside. I'm not gonna use it, this and that, which I shouldn't have done. I should have gave it like a full test run. So eventually I ended up going back to this foundation, because I was like, you know what, I did not spend $38 on this foundation, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try it. And that's what I ended up doing. And now I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys my full thoughts. So when I had first used this foundation, I loved it. The coverage was amazing. It, like, you don't need, a little goes a long way, and you don't need a lot, to be honest. This foundation, I like it because it is matte. So I was using it for, I want to say, about 2 weeks. And I was loving it. And I'm not sure if it was a primer that I was using at the time, which I don't know which one it was, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't remember which primer I was pairing with this one. But for me, using it, I guess, quite often, I started to notice my skin getting, not my skin getting dry, but when I would use the foundation, the foundation would, yes, I know it's a matte foundation, but it was a little bit too on the matte side. It was more drying than matte. Yes, I am a matte kind of girl, but this one, it just made my skin feel like dry and kind of nasty. And when I would touch it, it would just feel, it wouldn't feel like a matte foundation. It would just feel really dry. And I started to notice that, like, when I would talk, like, it would crease in my smile lines, on my forehead, like on the wrinkles that I have on my forehead. Yes, I have wrinkles in my forehead. And I just started to feel like it was kind of emphasizing like certain areas of my face, making some areas of my face look more dry than others. So when that started happening, I stopped using this foundation completely, because I was like, okay, you know what, this is drying out my skin, and if I keep using it, I feel like it's gonna really dry out my skin. And I don't have dry skin, I don't have oily skin, I have normal skin. So I was like, okay, I have to stop using this foundation before it dries out my face even more. So I stopped using it. Again, I started using the Hourglass stick foundation, and then the Makeup Forever stick. I was using all those, but I started running out of those. So then what I started doing was I gave this one more chance. So I went ahead, after that had happened, I had gave it, I want to say probably like 2 weeks. Actually, I've been using this foundation for, I want to say, 2 months. I know I mentioned 1 month. I think it's 2 months that I've been using this foundation. So after those 2 weeks had passed, when I started to notice my face getting dry, I gave it about a week or two, maybe even longer, and I hopped back on and I applied it again, and I loved it. So maybe it was a foundation, or maybe I just, honestly, if I'm going to be honest, I don't really wash my face a lot. Shh, keep it between me and you. But I wasn't washing my face that much when I was using it the first time. I do take my makeup off every single night, but I don't go in and I wash my face with, yes, I know, it's super bad. So when I started using this foundation, I started, washing my face. I started, taking really good care of my skin, and I noticed a big difference. So I think it did have to do, one, with the primer, and two, because I wasn't washing my face, and I wasn't getting all that gunk out of my face. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to go ahead and put the foundation on. So it says you want to shake well, so we want to go ahead and shake it. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take one pump first, just to show you guys how much it goes. So just one pump like that. So then what I like to do is I like to just dot it on my face first, just so that way I can get an even coverage, and I don't have more foundation on one side than I do to the other. So don't get me wrong, this foundation is still a little bit too dark for me. So when I go in and I blend it, I have to really make sure I bring it down my neck, So I'm going to go ahead and blend it out with my beauty blender. Again, this is only with 1 pump of the foundation, and this will show you guys how much that 1 pump goes. And again, this foundation is really, really full coverage, which I love. Okay, so this is with 1 pump of the foundation. This is how much coverage it gave me. So as you guys can see, it covered this little pimple that I had right here. Obviously, you can still see it because it's poking from my skin. But color-wise, it's completely gone. As you guys can see, it covered really, really good. Again, this was only with 1 pump. Me, personally, I like going in with more coverage. So I'm just going to go in with about half a pump more. Normally, I go in with 2 pumps. But for today, we can just go ahead and just do 1.5. Again, don't get me wrong, that 1 pump did give me a lot of coverage already, but I am going to work today, so I just need a little bit more coverage. And the reason why I like this foundation and why I like that it's so full coverage is because when you get a foundation that's full coverage, it kind of helps you avoid using so much concealer on your under eye, because I know personally I don't like feeling my under eye too cakey. So when you get a full coverage foundation, again, these are all my opinions. When I use a full coverage foundation, I rather use a full coverage foundation and then use a concealer that I don't have to go in really, really heavily with. I know some people really like their under eye like really highlighted and concealed. I like having my under eye concealed as well, but when it comes to feeling cakey, I don't like that. So that's why I like that this foundation is really full coverage, because if I would want to, I can go ahead and get away with just using the foundation underneath my eye, because you guys can see it wiped away it kind of covered any darkness that I had underneath my eye, which I love, because like I said, if I wanted to, I can just go ahead and bronze up my face and I don't have to conceal, because once again, it covered that darkness that I had underneath my eye. I'm just going to take a large powder brush, and I'm going to go ahead and use that to set my entire face with the translucent powder. I feel like this foundation, it sits really, really well with this translucent powder. Before as well, when I was using this powder and when I was using this foundation, I was applying my powder with this brush, which is like a little bit more dense than this brush. And honestly, I can say that I hated the way that my foundation looked. I think I mentioned it in my last video, or one of my last videos, that it was leaving my skin with the brush, when I would set it with the brush, it was leaving it like shiny, and I don't know why, and I couldn't figure out why until I realized that it was the brush that was giving me that finish, and I absolutely hated it. So that's when I started setting it with a beauty blender. But I just recently started using that brush, and I absolutely love the finish that it gives my skin. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to just get closer to the screen. Yes, we're going to get up close and personal. So I can just go ahead and show you guys what the skin looks like after setting it and after concealing. So you guys can see it looks really, really flawless, really, really matte and even. And I found that with this foundation, I find that it works best once I set my entire face and then I go in with bronzer. It just leaves my bronzer looking so much more natural and more kind of flawless, honestly, like airbrushed. And I love that. Honestly, this foundation, it does give me that airbrushed finish, which I love, because I used this foundation for quite some time before, as I said, and I got so many compliments, and I always got questions, and I always got asked what foundation I was wearing, and it was this one, because it just leaves it super airbrush and like baby skin, and it feels super soft. Okay, so my eyelash glue is drying on my lash. I'm gonna go ahead and just speak a little bit more on the foundation. So as I did mention, when I had first used it, it did leave my face kind of matte. But I think what the problem was as well is that the primer that I was using, I want to say I was using the Nature by Nature Flash Matte Perfecting Primer, which is this one, which you guys know that I had been using for like all my foundations. I think what happened is, because since I wasn't kind of taking care of my skin, I wasn't putting moisture in my skin, so my face was already kind of dry, because when I go in with my makeup wipe, I just go to bed. So I think what had happened was, since I was going in with a matte primer and then a matte foundation, I think these two kind of made my skin feeling dry, made my skin feel dry, So I think that's what happened, was because now I do remember, and I was using this primer, and since this is a matte primer, going in with a matte foundation, what do you think it's going to do? It's going to just make your skin even more matte and more dry. Because I remember that I would look at myself in the mirror, like if I was in the car going somewhere with my fiance, and I would look at my skin, I'm like, oh my god, my face just feels really dry. It felt really dry, and it just looked like really bad. Like it looked really patchy in some areas. So I was like, oh my gosh, you know, like I don't like that foundation, yada yada yada. So honestly, I think it was because I was using a matte primer. So what you can do is, if you have normal skin like I do, what you can do and what you can get away with in order to use this foundation is going in with a more moisturizing primer. Not necessarily matte, because if you have normal skin, it doesn't really matter if you use matte or kind of something with more oil. If you were to go in with something that has more moisture, more oil, and it's going to hydrate your skin as a primer more, the foundation is going to look amazing just because it is a matte. So using the oily primer or moisturizing primer and going in with a matte foundation, it's going to give it like that perfect combo. So I think you guys will be able to get away with using a more hydrating primer. Okay, so now that I went ahead and I applied my lash and I put on some lipsticks, I'm going to go ahead and give you my final thoughts on this foundation. So through all that explaining, through all that jibber jabbing, I've come to the conclusion, and I've come to say that I really do love this foundation. I have been using it nonstop. This is the only foundation that I use now at this time, because I did run out of my Makeup Forever Ultra HD stick and my Hourglass stick foundation. So this is the only foundation that I wear now. And let me tell you, I get a lot of compliments when I'm at work as well. They ask me what foundation I use or what I'm using on my face, this and that. I get so many compliments all the time, and it's because of this foundation. Again, I did have a little rough start with this foundation, but I've come to truly love this foundation. So I have come to love this foundation. I have other foundations that I had been using, but I've never stuck to a foundation that I use constantly every single day. And I know that this is more of a high coverage foundation, more on the pricey side. And I know some people prefer to use like drugstore on a day-to-day basis, like going to work, and saving the higher end foundations for like events or special occasions. But me personally, if I found a foundation that I love truly, I'm going to use it nonstop, again, to give you guys my true and honest opinion, rather than using a foundation once or twice a month and say, oh my gosh, I love this foundation. So I rather just use it all the time and every day if I have to give you guys my honest and true opinion. And that's what I'm doing today in today's video. So again, I do highly recommend this foundation. Again, I give you guys some tips and a little bit of advice if you are going to be using this foundation, if you guys have dry or oily skin or normal skin. I absolutely love this foundation. Again, this is what the foundation looks like once it is all done. So as you guys can see, it gives it a really nice airbrush finish, and it's not the quality of the camera that I have, because I have the Sony a5100, although it does filter a little bit. And I'm going to be honest, me looking at myself right now in the mirror, it did leave it really airbrushed, which I love, because you can never go wrong with having a airbrush complexion. So that is pretty much all I have to say. So if you go ahead and get your hands on this, make sure to leave them down in the comments down below, and let me know if you like it or if you don't. I would really love to hear your guys' opinions. And that's pretty much all I have to say, and I will see you guys on the next one.